All right, well, we have wrapped up week one of testimony and evidence exhibits for the Tupac murder trial. Martha Cruz, our web producer, was with me in the courthouse as well, following along on everything that's happening inside the courtroom. Martha, what a week.
What a week, honestly. That was not what I expected. It was a cool experience, but I'm glad we got through as much as we did this week.
I know it was Martha's first time at the courthouse, and what a big case to cover.
Yeah, what a first case to cover and be there for the first time. It was an experience for sure this week.
Yeah, well, we gotten through, I think, about 17 or 18 witnesses pretty quick. So we've had a couple of people who really have stood out. What stood out to you? Who stood out to you, Martha?
Yeah, I think towards the end we got juicy, like the past couple days.
Oh, yeah. Well, okay, well,
Yes.
today is Friday, the 21st. It got spicy, unexpectedly spicy, because as we were getting ready to leave for the lunch break, the judge excused the jury. And then once the jury is out of the room, the judge then asked the state and the defense, is there anything they got to discuss outside the presence of the jury? I thought each side was going to say no because it's past noon. We're all hungry. No, Kefe D raises his hand and says that it's wrong that the prosecution keeps playing audio that has his address in it, his sister's address now. And then he also said that his house is getting vandalized during this trial.
They keep giving out my address. They broke in my house, vandalized my house, vandalized my wife's car. You know what I'm saying? Because they keep giving out our address. Now they gave out my sister's address. This stuff is wrong.
Your attorney
wrong.
let me know what's going on.
I get beat up by the cops. The guy attacked me in here, sent me to prison. This is wrong, and it's mostly this guy.
Yeah, for the record, I think he's indicating he's upset I'm prosecuting him for murder.
No, I'm not upset because you prosecute. You're endangering my family's life.
I did not expect him to say that.
And it was definitely like you could see everyone's like reaction in the room. Everyone's like, "What's going on?" Like
You were
did
in the
he do
overflow
this?
room. What was the reaction
Yes, in the overflow room, everybody was just kind of like, is he allowed to do this? Like, what's going on? And we just wanted to know what he had to say because it was so weird. We've gone through so many days where we're just kind of like, yeah, no, nothing further from either side, and then we go on our lunch or whatever. But this was like, he's over here trying to get the attention of the judge. He's like trying, and the judge is like, I see you, like, give me a sec, like, what's up, you know? And yeah, the overflow room was just kind of like,
what's come out of his mouth?
Yeah, what is he gonna say? I think that's what everybody just was thinking about.
Yeah, and then he got a little spicy towards the prosecutor. He was just saying how wrong it was, and then he was like, "It's all his fault," pointing at one of the prosecutors, Mark, and then Mark, no, the judge says, "For the record, you're looking at so and so," and then the prosecutor goes, "For the record, he's just upset that I'm prosecuting him for murder." I'm like, "Oh my God."
Everyone in the overflow room was just like, what's happening? Like, we were not expecting that before lunch. And it was just something that just came out of the blue.
Because we don't know
sure.
what's going on behind the scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
this is a trial where there's eyes from all over.
National, international.
And we
just
have
so
to remember
big.
it started with like gang rivalry back in the 90s from Compton all the way to Las Vegas. So there's some people who even took the stand who are former gang members. And the judge even said that she is hearing from both sides, that there's issues on both sides from the witness list going after the other side. I had talked to Kefe D's son as well, and he opened up about him being a target. He didn't want to talk too much because, you know, obviously he's also afraid. He said his family's going through a lot right now. But it was just so interesting. I think what a way to end the week on a Friday.
Yeah, and tensions were high already because we heard from like two other people at this point, right?
From the gangs?
Oh, no, just
Oh,
that
yeah,
in the
today.
day today, yeah.
Okay, so Friday we heard from...
Yeah, so we heard from Leonard Jefferson, which was the guy who took that famous picture that is displayed like everywhere.
The last known picture of Tupac alive. He's in that BMW with Suge Knight. They were on their way to Club 662, and they invited this photographer, this guy, to come along too. So he was part of that entourage in his car. He said he was like the third car back. He was canceling his pizza order because Suge invited him to go to the club. And then while he was canceling his order, the shots were fired.
Right. Yeah, that was interesting to hear. You know, he's talking like I'm on the phone with California Pizza Kitchen ready to like cancel my order. And then 30 seconds into the call, he says he hears the shots. And then that's how everything plays out, and then
And
he
he-
just details it all.
And then asked Pac to take a picture real quick, so he took
Yeah.
that picture. Yeah, and it seems like he was a little. Tupac was a little startled in that picture. He wasn't expecting that flash to come in his face like
Right.
that. You know, because when we pose, it's like we're smiling and whatever. But
Mm-hmm.
he was. But you know what? That was the last known picture of him. That picture, I'm sure all of you have seen by now.
Yeah.
If not, we'll add it right now as well. Okay, and then we heard from, was it Mario Diaz?
Mario
who,
Diaz, yes.
Was he the director or the producer?
He said he was the
Death Row.
producer, yeah.
Okay, for Death Row Chronicles, he was kind of doing this docuseries about Death Row Records and talked about, you know, interviews that he had with Kefe D. He also said that, you know, he had paid Kefe D and Suge for their participation in that docuseries. And in that docuseries, you hear Kefe D saying, like, I've got nothing to lose. And he said, I'm the last known person to know what happened that night to Tupac. I'm ready to tell my story. But interesting because, you know, in my jailhouse interview with him, he kept saying that, yeah, he was paid to say all that stuff. He was paid.
Yeah, and I think it was just so much information was thrown that it was just more of a, how do you differentiate? Like, was he paid to say this, or was he just paid, you know, to talk, you know? Because it looks like he just likes to talk. And I think that's what they're trying to lean more towards, is that they told him there was money involved and he wanted to talk, and he talked, and he might have just said too much.
Yeah.
But it sounded like Diaz was just very more like, he was open, so, you know, we just recorded him and for the film.
It was kind of interesting to see that shot of Kefe D by Flamingo and Koval, and he was like, this is Flamingo and Koval. My life changed over here that night, something along those lines.
Oh, yeah.
But it's just been so interesting to see from the prosecution side, like, okay, we don't have a murder weapon, we don't have DNA, we don't have surveillance. They've just kind of been using Kefe D's own words against him. The book excerpts, the media statements, the docuseries. I've never seen a trial like this.
Yeah,
where
and
there's
it's-
no evidence of, like, no DNA, no murder, no
Yeah.
surveillance.
And I think that's why his defense attorney is leaning, like, started off his opening statement with, like, we need to, like, as the jury, you need to focus on the facts. And I think he's going to be heavily relying on the fact that there's no murder weapon or anything like that. So his opening statement was really good, with him just talking about, like, I need you to focus on the facts, not what he said, but, like, the facts.
And notice that it was his own defense attorney who said that his client was pretty much full of bull, and I can't say the rest, because he wants to make it seem like, okay, his client was probably lying, and, you know, he would just said all that stuff for money and all that stuff. Okay, but one of the other things that stood out, it got a little spicy with Mob James. He was a former Compton Crip gang member. He was working security that night for Club 662. You could tell there might be some beef with Kefe D and him. I don't know, but if I was in the room, I'm sure I could feel the tension. I could feel it from the screen because I was watching it from the station here. But Mob James didn't want to talk. He got so angry at the defense attorney to the point where the defense attorney was like, answer my question, yes or no. And he just didn't want to. He didn't want to say anything. He really said that, you know, after Tupac was killed, a gang war erupted in Compton. People were getting killed.
Yeah, and I think up to that point, things were kind of tame in the courtroom.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we actually see, like, the defense attorney and everyone just kind of be like, you know, like, they're not yelling, but they're coming to the point where, like, yeah, if you were in the courtroom, you would feel how, like, tense it got.
What did you think when he pointed to Kefe D a few times and talked to him directly? He was like, your lawyer's tripping. And then he was like, he looked right at him, addressed him in court, which I have never seen before. And he just was like, you're in the situation that you're in. And then he kept saying, I don't want to be the one to send him to prison.
Yeah, he said a lot, and there's so many quotes that, you know, we've been, like, tracking what he said, but I think the big one was like, I'm not gonna put him in prison, you are. And I think he was talking to the defense attorney, because for some reason, like, between them two, it just got so heated, and just saying that this wasn't our beef, like, you know, people were just in this because of the money, like, I got into all this and it wasn't even my doing, you know. And I think it just went back and forth about, like, what really happened and what was going on, you know.
Yeah. Who else came that was interesting? Well, Reggie Wright.
Reggie Wright.
Reggie Wright Jr. His father, Reggie Wright Sr., was a Compton police officer. Reggie Wright Jr. also was a Compton police officer, but he also was doing security for Death Row Records. in the jailhouse interview with the Kefe D, because he kept denying it, it's weird. Kefe D kept saying he didn't do it. In the audio tapes that we kept hearing, he pointed the fingers towards his nephew, Orlando Anderson. And then I asked him, all right, if you didn't do it, if Orlando didn't do it, who did it? And he kept pointing to Reggie Wright. But then Reggie Wright was also asked on the stand. And he's like, absolutely not.
Yeah, there was actually, one of the direct quotes. They directly looked at him and asked him, did you have anything to do with the murder of Tupac Shakur? And he just says, absolutely not. So it's definitely out there now. But I think we also touched on it today, too, about all the audio clips that we went through, because there's a lot of audio clips this week.
A lot.
And most of them did kind of like detail how Davis was in the car and he handed the gun to Orlando, his nephew. So it's definitely a lot of back and forth.
And to refresh everyone's mind, okay, so the September 7th, 1996, hours before Tupac was shot and killed, Kefe D's nephew, Orlando, was beat up. He was jumped, the terms that these kids use, jumped at MGM by Tupac, by Suge Knight. And then word gets to Kefe D, and then it seems like they are looking for revenge.
And I think that was in the opening statement as well, that this is more of a, like, avenge what happened to his nephew at MGM. And it was definitely brought up a couple times, too, that it's more of, like, not a case of who pulled the trigger, but it was just more of, like, putting someone to the face of this, and all comes down to just wanting revenge on what happened to Orlando.
Have you noticed, like, during those audio tapes, he doesn't flat out say it all in one whole sentence. He says a couple words. Officers are talking, and I'm not sure if they're trying to put words in his mouth, but they're talking, they're asking questions. He's mumbling a few things. They're talking again. We don't have, like, a whole clear paragraph of him explaining exactly what happened.
Yeah, and especially today, I noticed that a lot in the last clip we listened to. It was a lot of, like, you could even see it on the screen because they display, the transcript of what's being said. It's a lot of, like, you can't hear what's going on because there's two people talking. And it's a lot of, like, the detective saying something and then Duane Davis going in somewhere in there and interrupting and saying a little bit, and kind of like you said, just like never a full like sentence of this is what happened, more of just like bits and pieces of you hear him say like, I gave the gun to Orlando, and there's a secret compartment in the car and that's where we put it. And but it definitely sounds from all the clips that he was there. He was in Las Vegas.
Are you surprised with how many times that Diddy's name has been brought up?
Yeah,
this week?
That was another big one too, is just hearing Diddy, and I think this is like one of the first times we hear that like Diddy was involved in all this, and multiple times. I think it started day 3 of testimony where we started Detective Dupree
from LAPD. He was recounting a conversation he had with Davis, and he basically said that Davis never got money that he was supposed to get from Diddy.
Yeah.
For Tupac's killing.
And we hear that today too in the recording. We heard that there was a whole back and forth of Zip was supposed to get the money and Zip never brought the money.
Zip is a guy from New York.
Yes. And they went to New York, tried to get the money, and nothing happened. And it was just a whole back and forth of basically Kefe D talking about him trying to get the money, and he doesn't get the money from Diddy.
And then, Martha, you were able to get into the courtroom one of these days. Did you get a look at the jury? What is your take on the final jury that's supposed to determine if he's guilty or not guilty?
Yeah, seeing the jury was interesting because, I mean, I've never been a part of, I see this on TV, but you're never a part of it. And being in there and seeing the jury, it's really diverse. Knew it would be diverse, but I didn't expect it to be as diverse as it is. And they all look taking small glances at them.
And they're taking notes too.
Yeah, they're taking notes, but you can see that they're invested in all the jury questions as well.
Right.
We've heard a lot of jury questions, and mostly each witness has had a jury question. So I think they are very diverse, and it's a good group of people, I think, for something of this caliber.
Yeah. And I'm not positive what the rules are in other states, but in Nevada, jurors are allowed to ask questions after a witness testimony. I don't know how a defense attorney would feel about this, because it could be something that they were not expecting. But after the if a juror has a question, that question on a piece of paper is given to the judge. The judge then has like a private sidebar with both sides. I guess they go over the question and then they ask it.
Yeah, and then they also have a chance to, ask a follow-up or anything further from the question after every question. So I thought that was good too, that it's just, there's no misunderstandings, and if there's anything that needs to be cleared up, which we saw the defense do a couple times, they did say, like, I do want to clear up after your answer, you meant this, and I think it's a good process that they have there for the jury questions for sure.
And I remember on Monday after opening statements that we got through a couple of our first witnesses, the defense attorney, Michael Sam, who was also, in here for this podcast with me a few weeks before the trial started, he said that, he believes in his client's defense. And he said on Monday that his client was able to get rid of like the first stage jitter. So I'm sure they were all nervous for opening statements. I mean, the world has been waiting 30 years for this.
Yes. And so many eyes, like we've even seen in like just around the courtroom, like international, national, just everyone's there. Everyone wants to be a part of this. And we've even seen it in the overflow room, like the public, they're lining up and they're waiting for their name to be called for that lottery so they can be in the courtroom. And, it's just one of those cases where it's like once in a lifetime, like this is just huge. And to finally have like a verdict in all this potentially at the end, everyone just wants to be involved.
Were you surprised with the amount of security?
Yeah, it is. Like I expect at a courtroom, or in a courthouse, you're going to see a lot of security, but to this caliber, it's just been it's been a lot, but it's been a lot. Yeah, but it's big, people are waiting years for this.
Yeah. I've been covering court a lot here. I don't mind it. It's interesting because every case is so different, but we obviously have our security protocol, go through metal detectors, and what do they do at the airport when they
the wand you down or something? Yeah.
Yes. But for this, there's a lot more marshals and bailiffs in the courtroom as well as the overflow room as well.
Yeah.
And I remember the first day, us media who were granted a seat in that courtroom, we had to be escorted by the marshals. We have to show them like a special lottery ticket stamp that says media, show our credentials.
And then everyone outside. And then once you get in, you pass one bailiff just to get to another bailiff. And they'll tell you, sit to the left, sit to the right. And it's very strict. It's a very strict protocol. But, I mean, given the interests, like even with the public, there's just so much, like so many people just want to be in there.
And Tupac's family is sitting in the courtroom. They are being escorted by, I think, a court victim advocate and a marshal as well during the lunch hours, and just keeping them away from the public as well. It's similar to what I see them doing with the jury, kind of shielding them from the public and the media. So that's kind of what they're doing for the family of Tupac as well. They're sitting on the right side behind the prosecutors, but they've been in the courtroom every day this week.
Yeah, they have, and it's interesting to see them there. And I think it was day 2 when they showed the autopsy photos.
Yeah,
they had to leave the room during that, which is understandable. But they have been very involved in all this, and it's good to see them there. And it's unfortunate, but they're standing behind the prosecution in this. So
and Kefe D also seems to be in good spirits. Besides today, he seemed really upset. I've noticed him hugging his defense attorney, fist bumping the defense attorney. So it's just interesting to see how this will play out. If he will testify, it's what I've heard is it's not the norm for a defendant to take the stand and testify. There is no telling what will come out of his mouth, what questions the prosecutors will ask him, but he seems like someone that may want to talk.
And he told you in your interview, right? The jailhouse interview. He'll talk if he have to.
Yeah.
I mean, that says a lot. And given what we saw today, I mean, anything's possible, but we'll see. And then we'll see if Suge Knight will come up to he won't come up to the stand, but if he shows up, we've seen a couple witnesses come up via Zoom. So
yeah,
who knows if that'll happen next week or the week after. But it seems like it's going pretty quick.
Yeah.
So we've gone through 18 witnesses so far. And
we're expecting 45 total by the end of this trial.
Yeah. So
6 from the defense, and then the rest will be the prosecutors.
Yep. So we'll see. Anyone else stand out to you so far?
No.
18?
Well, I did hear from some birdies that they don't think that Oscar Goodman's going to come and testify. Joe Lombardo, who's now governor, he was a sergeant back then in 1996. He's probably not going to come testify. We got that list. It was like 11 pages, 200 names. We knew that not everyone on that list will have to testify.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting who actually will. But we've gotten some good witnesses so far, and we even heard from a security guard who used to be security at the Maxim Hotel, which I didn't know is now the Westin now.
Oh,
yeah. So he came up and said, he didn't see the shots, but he heard them.
Oh, you know who else? This is in the beginning. So much has happened.
Yeah, it's hard to recap everything.
There was the officer who was on the bike team who had originally pulled over Tupac and Suge Knight in their BMW because they didn't have a license plate.
Yeah.
And then he heard the shots fired, went back, and he described riding. He said Suge Knight just said, like, check, unpack. And then as EMS was taking Tupac into the ambulance, the officer kept trying to ask him, who shot you? And he said, Tupac said that, oh, we'll take care of it. So
yeah,
it's the culture that I'm understanding. Nobody is wanting to snitch on each other.
Oh yeah, and I think that was the same. I think that was a security guard. No, or actually that might have been earlier.
We heard from so many people.
Yeah, we've heard from so many people, but that was interesting to hear. And also the part where they revealed that Duane Davis had a conviction for drugs, where the judge had to address the courtroom. Yeah.
Okay, see, this is why, Martha, we need all eyes in there.
I have the quote right here too, where
right.
she's just like,
Say it,
here, let's
Martha.
see. She says, additionally, ladies and gentlemen, you have heard and will continue to hear testimony regarding drug trafficking, conspiracy, gang affiliation, as well as a federal conviction of Mr. Davis. These are not offered to show that Mr. Davis has a propensity. I don't know. I think I might have gotten that word wrong. Yeah, pattern to commit crimes. Instead, they are offered to establish credibility of the statements made by the defense in relation to this case, as well as a motive and identity.
Okay, yeah. When I was watching that, I'm like, wait. Did they just let the jury know that he was in prison? Because sometimes trials can end in like a mistrial because the jury is not allowed to know any of that stuff. They're not even supposed to know that he's behind bars right now. That he's been arrested. So it's because, they don't want the jury to come up with this like bias that, okay, he has got a pattern of criminal behavior. They want the jury to focus just on the facts and only the facts in this particular case. So I got a little nervous that this thing was going to be over with.
So we'll see if it actually did work, that she addressed it, and we'll see we'll never know if like that swayed the jury either way. But I mean, it just kind of happened.
It was needed to establish like, okay, well, he gave police that 2008 interview because he was facing all these drug charges, and he was promised immunity if he would tell them about Tupac's murder. Yeah,
and it was all kind of just like put out there, just like naturally, like as if we were supposed to know that. But then it was like, wait, like I feel like we shouldn't be talking about this. Like this is something like completely different. And then so when she came back to address, like she had a whole she had the quote ready. She read it off a paper. Like she was just like, I think she just really wanted to clear that up because it probably wasn't supposed to be in there and wasn't supposed to be revealed.
And it's interesting to hear the 2008, the 2009 police recording is being played in court because one of the pre-trial court hearings, the defense wanted to throw that 2008 interview out that he did with Detective Greg Kading in LAPD because, all right, they said, whatever you say today is not going to be used against you, yada, yada, yada. However, nobody knew that Detective Kading was secretly recording, and Sam, the defense attorney, even said that this was like a disgraced cop who was recording without Kefe D's permission. So it was interesting to see that play out. I can see why the defense didn't want that in there, but the judge ruled that it's admissible. Yeah,
which is interesting to see the kind of the background on that, because it's like if it was done without him knowing and he wasn't supposed to be recording that conversation, like could they really use those words against him? And that was the interview that really got really into detail about all the series of events. And
I believe Detective Kading is on that witness list, so he will be an interesting one to hear from. I had called him actually not too long ago, and he told me that he was subpoenaed and he was going to have to testify.
So we'll see if that comes next week or the week after. I know we were we were hearing about the film producer too, Dorsey. His name was coming up throughout the week too. I mean, he didn't end up.
Well, that's who we just heard from today.
Yeah, and we didn't. I don't think we finished his testimony. He's supposed to come back Monday morning. But it was interesting because he did also mention Diddy, and there was just so much talk beforehand that he seems like the main film producer in the whole the Death Row Chronicles series, and that documentary seems like it's going to be a big part of all this too. So that's probably what we're going to get into next week for the start of it, for sure.
Yeah, well, I guess if you're including jury selection, and this week, well, we're going to be heading into week 3.
Day 11.
Right? Yeah, day 11.
Oh
my God, I'm losing track.
Yeah. It might be 10, actually, because there was no Friday.
Yeah, last Friday was
Last Friday we didn't do anything, but...
Okay. Well, minus jury
10.
selection. Yeah, we'll start week 2 on Monday, the 24th.
Yeah, of testimonies. So what are you expecting this upcoming week?
I feel like now we have to be prepared for the unexpected, because if I wasn't paying attention, I probably would have missed a Kefe D talking in court. That may be the first and only time we ever hear him talk in court if he doesn't testify.
It's just good that there's 2 of us there, and just in case, because with one person we might miss something and then the other one will catch it. So
exactly,
it'll be interesting week 2 of testimonies next week.
All right, Martha. Well, thanks for covering this with me.
Thanks, Victoria, for having me.
All right, we'll see you guys back next week.